Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and a very warm welcome to our special Eid show. I'm your host Shehzad QAYYUM.
And I'm MAHRUKH HAMEED. Thank you so much for being with us.
That's right, MAHRUKH. Now talking about the Eid al-Adha. Eid al-Adha is basically a celebration. Actually, it's a commemoration to Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam as for his devotion for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as he was ready to sacrifice his son, Prophet Ismail alayhi salam, but at the very same time Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala replaced Prophet Ismail alayhi salam with a ram, and since then Muslims across the world they sacrifice, they slaughter the animals, and that's how it started. Now another aspect of this whole point is that the devotion and it's the following of the obedience of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam is the key element here, and that's why in connection that we are celebrating Eid al-Adha. And today on this wonderful occasion we have been joined by such a wonderful guest here, and starting with Miss AYESHA, who is a trainer and a yoga instructor, and also then we have Mr.
Yes. We have KALEEM, REHMAN, who's principal, Future World School and College, Beria Town. He's also a trainer. He's a Cambridge diploma. He has an educational leadership, and he's a child protection officer from Queensland University, Australia. Thank you so much for being with us.
Assalamu alaikum ji. Thank you very much for inviting.
All right, now and also we have Miss MEERA'N with us. She's a trainer and also an educationist and social reformer as well. Now let's start with you, Ayesha. When we talk about, just tell us how the whole yoga thing works.
So most of the people think that when you talk about yoga, they perceive it as someone sitting there and just breathing, inhaling and exhaling. But I always tell them that yoga means, the word yoga means to unite. And what does it unite? It unites, it joins your physical, your mental health, also your spiritual, and now we have also added the social elements, and we talk about the team leadership in yoga as well, because as humans we are a part of the society, we don't live all alone. So it's your social wellness, it's your physical wellness, it's your mental wellness, it's your spiritual, emotional wellness. So yoga, it encompasses all your dimensions of wellness.
Right. Also, Ayesha, there is one thing that, and don't get me wrong, I really want to learn it, but there is one thing that pops up in our mind every time we talk about yoga. Then we have a picture that a person is sitting on the floor with hands like this. What is that?
That's actually a pressure point. Basically they put a gentle pressure on your ring finger, because your ring finger is directly connected to the heart.
Okay,
that's
so
why we wear, yeah.
Okay.
And we believe that as we inhale, exhale, it cleanses your body, it detoxifies you, and it also calms you down. So there are multiple things connected with that thing, with that posture, with that position. But we have many more poses and things to do. It's not just sitting like this and
right. That's the whole thing.
That's the whole thing about
perception with yoga. But isn't it changing a lot? I mean, things are changing now. People are putting a lot of emphasis on fitness and how it's associated with mental health and how it's so important, and it's becoming a part of everyone's day, no?
It should be. Because if we look at the corporate sector now, all the multinationals and the people who care about their employees, they have yoga zones, or they have fitness zones or gym facility, in their companies. Also, if you look at the best of the airports, they do have yoga zones and rooms.
And also it's about any kind of activity that suits you, right? Physical activity.
Whenever we are physically active, it also, you feel good about yourself. Even if you go out for a brisk walk, you'll feel, I think you feel great.
Yeah, and even walk is, I will come back to that, is becoming a huge part of, they're saying it's the thing to do. Just walk also. It's really
I totally
important.
Agree.
I'm going to include KALEEM Saab. KALEEM Saab, there's also, as far as children are concerned, you have a lot of experience with youth. And moving from the physical side of things, inculcating that in children today, because again it's about a lot of gadgets, it's a lot of social media, it's a lot of inactive kind of activity. Do you also emphasize that, as children are they into extracurriculars? We were also talking about that earlier.
Definitely, Ji. Actually, the word curriculum encompasses everything that happens inside the school, because there is a general, understanding that we just feel that English, Urdu, math, science is part of the curriculum. But extracurricular activities used to, they were called extracurricular activities. Now we call them co-curricular activities, because they go hand in hand with the mainstream education that is going on. And there is a very famous saying you must have heard: the healthy body gives you a healthy mind. So the balance between education, physical activity, leisure time is actually what modern day schools tend to do and must do, because the entire time that a student or a learner is awake, you out of the 24 hours, you take out the 8 hours that are required for sleeping. The other 16 hours are there for them to be managed by the adults. Out of those 16 hours, the time spent in the school is approximately half of it. So that half time or half of the time is managed by balancing each and everything. Otherwise, if you keep a student inside a room, no matter how beautiful that room is and how many facilities that room might have, it is not going to give us a healthy mind.
It's still a form of
Exactly.
enclosurement or imprisonment, whatever one can call it.
There is a challenge that actually parents are facing right now, and I know I'm facing that challenge, and that is keeping them outside. When we were kids, our parents were having tough time keeping us inside.
Correct.
Right?
Absolutely.
And now, right now, we're looking at them and, hey, you know what, I'm asking my sons, hey, you know what, okay, it's enough time to spend on the gadget that you are holding in your hand. Let's go out, do something physical, go out there. I'm asking him to go out. And like I said, it was other way around when I was a kid, because they were asking me to stay inside because they couldn't keep me inside.
True.
But I mean, is there anything that I know that schools have a lot of physical activities, that they are trying to put in place, but at the same time, do we need to probably streamline this somehow? So, because physically, mentally, and emotionally, it's actually harming our kids.
Correct.
So, what's your take on it?
Absolutely, Ji, absolutely. They need to be busy, and they need to move. They need to be engaged in physical activities. And rightly said, the reason that the children are not free to go outside the homes is mainly because of the safety issues that surround the neighborhood, that wherever we are living in. But it has something to do with the sensitivity of the parents as well. Our parents or the parents of the past were not that much sensitive towards sending their children outside on the street or in the playgrounds.
But
now
also the security wasn't that bad.
Yes.
Right.
And the weather, like for example nowadays,
Yes.
it's even if you're here, and I mean in Islamabad for example, the weather is really quite, it gets really hot.
Yes.
So the time that they can be outside is very limited. So there are all these challenges.
Either it is limited or it needs to be managed, because we know that the temperatures are rising, and they have been continuously rising for the past many years. It's nothing new. So what families do is that they wake up early, and they start some physical activities early in the morning, starting with what you were saying, yoga, with walk. And there are children who are physically very much active, like they are part of the football team or cricket team. Nowadays we don't play hockey, but there used to be a
hockey.
Yes.
Hockey also.
So they wake up early and they go and they practice, and they come back by the time the sun is on the rise.
Meera, you're also you train. Do you train teachers also?
Teachers, parents, youth, students, yes.
And a little bit I also, because it's Eid, and I think we've sort of, gone into the more serious aspect. How is Eid for you? Let's talk about that.
First of all, Assalamu alaikum everyone, and Eid Mubarak to everybody who is here. My Eid, it's just like any Eid for any woman in Pakistan. Most of the time spent in the kitchen, trying to manage the meat and the hisse and the butcher and everything. But it includes that kind of festivity, and we really look forward to it. That's the time of the year that we all to come together, we have spare time, and alhamdulillah, since we are in a Muslim country, unlike my siblings who are abroad, they barely get to celebrate Eid the way we can, because we get holidays, and that brings a lot of joy for me. For me, Eid is that's the most beautiful 2 times in the year that I fully celebrate.
Right. Meera,
Shehzad here also, I'm going to include him. Shehzad has lived, he just mentioned he's lived abroad a lot of his life. And you mentioned that your family is also not in Pakistan. Do you think the spirit is perhaps more there than here in some sense?
you know what?
Yes, actually.
Lately, I realized something that, I mean, it's almost, it's been 5 years since I moved back. But the way we used to celebrate Eid there was probably, I would say, it was more better in some aspects than here. Because here, I think we are getting, I don't know what word to use here at this point. I think
Jaded?
more like materialistic, you know. There, when there is a Eid day, right? And some of these states you'll be surprised, because I was in state of Virginia, and then they have declared the Eid holidays as well in the schools. So actually, some of the schools are closed on Eid. This was just started actually recently. I think in some counties it has been started. You know, the Eid is like more like it's a combination of a lot of things, because they have like they put in place a lot of stalls and all that stuff, you know.
There's more spirit.
Because the community, the Pakistani community, you can say, or the Muslim community rather, I should say, they you know, they are combined. I mean, they get together at one point. I mean, there's so much going on. So we used to go to the slaughterhouse. There was a slaughterhouse in the town, and you pick your animal, which is right there in the ranch. You pick one, and then, you know, they just prepare it, slaughter it for you, and then you bring the meat home, and then you have huge dinners and lunch and all that. So the get-togethers and the mehndi and all that. Like I said, I was in Virginia, Pakistani community. There is a lot of community in Virginia, so and New York, Virginia. These places are full of Pakistani. So it was.
And they all get together.
Actually, I honestly think that when you are in minority, if you're living somewhere in a minority, you hold on more to your traditions.
Exactly.
We in Pakistan, we just take it for granted, because we know 98% probably everybody must be celebrating. But whenever any community is anywhere in the world and it's in minority, they would like to hold up to their traditions. That's the most festive thing they can do, is to keeping their traditions and heritage alive by celebrating
Absolutely.
Eid like that. And think when you see the pictures, and of course the social media is there, you can see they are more dressed up, they are more excited, and they miss home also.
They miss home, and therefore they tend to be closer on these occasions. Whereas, you know, if you are in Pakistan, we've seen that, you know, the way that the family structures used to be, you know, it was more about getting together. It was more about, I don't know if I'm being very pessimistic, but I feel like that's not quite as it used to be, maybe even 15 years ago, or, you know, earlier in our when we were younger also.
Right. Another factor, Mahrukh, is you know, there is nothing, it has nothing to do with the backgrounds as well. It doesn't matter where you're from, what part of Pakistan are you from. It doesn't matter who you are, what caste are you from, what sect are you from. It's just about spending it together, celebrating it together, and, you know, it could be one person from X area of Pakistan, and, you know, everyone, they just enjoy it. So that's, like you said, yes, that's the key point right there, that it's all about, you know, maybe it has a lot to do with the homesickness as well.
Oh yes,
you know,
I'm
so
sure.
that's what it. Aisha, what about you? How you celebrate your Eid al-Azha usually?
So let me be honest.
Don't tell me you sleep all day.
No, I sure would like to catch up on my sleep, and catching up like with my friends and barbecue parties.
Oh, right.
And I think, but we have a lot of festivity on a Chand Raat. So kids enjoy, we all get together. So there's a lot of celebration and festivity goes on the Chand Raat.
Right.
Instead of the Eid day, I don't know.
Usually, I think, but when we compare these two Eids, right? Eid al-Fitr has more like a Chand Raat thing. You know, this one has a different.
But things are changing now. People go out now, and now if you go out, you'll see the lights on, even these days.
Right. Well, the only thing I care about is animals in this Eid. But anyway.
And also, you're right, things are changing. I remember very far back, I think I remember in grade 5 or 6, I remember that there would be no restaurants open. And this is, you know, was one Eid that we didn't go back to, we were in the city, and I remember that, there was one hotel and that's it, and of course PC, or it used to be PC at the time, and that was only open because it's a hotel, and there was no other restaurant at all that was open, and those 3 days. Now I think things are not like that. Now I think
people eat out.
Generally people eat out. And
usually they open up. This is what I've noticed. They open up after 2 p.m., 3 p.m. You go there, they let you know. Yeah, in the evening, because
so the options are maybe better. But Kaleem sir, what about, let's talk about the youth. Do you think that there's a lot of jaded kind of pessimism that has seeped into our youth also? They've become more, they're not that, are they really not into our festivities like Eid as much as perhaps 10 years ago, or is it just me?
Actually, I'll just, share a few things. A lot has to do with the urbanization.
Okay.
Because 20 years from now, every person used to be associated with some sort of village.
Yeah.
And there was this type of a culture that people had to travel. Now because masses have moved to the cities and the culture has not moved with them. So they are taking, the culture is taking a shape. As far as the youth is concerned, there is a big difference. They have become more animal lovers. The time when we were in schools, we would not care about the animals as much as they do now.
And that's a good thing.
Yes, that's a good thing. So I wouldn't, blame them, for this, but rather I would appreciate that they care about even those stray dogs that are on the road. They care about every animal, for each animal is a living being for them.
Right.
So in that sense, it's more humane, obviously.
Yes, and they are, they are taking maturity, to the next level. As far as the celebration of Eid is concerned, we cannot blame the youth unless and until they see their adults doing something. If I as a father, I am not going to follow the tradition, I am not going to, make it an important occasion, why would I blame my children, who are not following the footsteps of my forefathers? So this is very important, because the problem, as ma'am said, that we like to follow the trend. Nowadays we have seen pictures and you're taking selfies with the animals and you are showing off. Eid was never about showing off. This Eid was never about new clothes. It was never about shoppings or anything. It was always about sacrifice. It was always about sharing. It was always about thinking about those who are in need, starting with the family, moving on to the community, and generally, nationwide. But nowadays our focus is that, okay, I have the biggest animal at home, it's the most beautiful, it has this name. That day I saw a video where they were feeding almonds to a goat. Okay, if you are feeding almonds, good for you.
There's no point.
Why do you need to share it with others?
So
Yes.
That's one of the key elements. But at the same time, Kaleem Saab, what I think is, there are a lot of things that we're missing, and they are actually vanishing, not gradually, rapidly from our culture. I want my kids to learn more and to practice, our traditions, our celebrations. Maybe that's what I've missed in my life when I was younger, because I was abroad. So since I came back, can you believe, MAHRUKH, that my son started actually slaughtering the goats from the past 4 years? He actually holds a knife, there are butchers there, but he does that, and he skinned them too one time. Shahir did.
How old is he?
He's 19 now.
Good.
Okay.
But I'm not saying that everyone should do that, but then I take them to the cattle market, to the all these places where they have government has place for to sell to purchase the cattle, and we spend 7 to 8 hours there. I don't care how hard it is. Okay,
I disagree with you when you say you don't want everybody to do this. Me as a mother, I feel every boy should be doing that.
Right.
Because that adds to you being a Muslim also.
Absolutely.
We have started creating very soft men. Have you noticed our parenting?
Yes.
It's kind of, the girls are becoming more masculine and the boys are becoming more feminine. It's like, you know, slaughter kiya, hi Allah, how can you do that? Let's get over with it. Let's bring back the masculinity to the boys and the femininity to the girls. So what I see as a whole, as a society, where we are failing, apart from whatever is going on, is the parenting actually. Our parenting has flawed so rapidly and badly. We keep on comparing ourselves as children, but how come we don't compare ourselves with our parents and their values and their ways of doing it? Frankly speaking, I think all the injustice was always there. It's just that we now come to know about it more. It's good to be sensitive, it's good to be caring for your children, but not at the risk when you have to decide between your tradition and a religion actually. I really, you know, I'm so happy to meet a parent who takes the child to the cattle market. They should understand why is it that our boys are so soft, you know, they can't go to the bakra market, they don't know how to look for an animal, what are the things that to look for it. Yeah, I understand that, but I'm really glad to meet a parent like that.
Okay, so
but also I think it's only related to the elite class, not we cannot generalize it, can you?
Like in what aspect? I didn't get it.
Like there are so many people from the villages and they do slaughter animals and they take care
I've never done it. I mean, I was raised in a city. I've never done it in my life until he asked me. Actually, my son asked me 4 years ago, we should start doing it. I mean, once again, the butcher is there, but he wanted to do it by himself and he does that now.
Also, I agree with
the dynamics have changed. Now, if we talk about urbanization, now we order at a meat shop, we have to do our qurbani,
but
and your part will be delivered at home, you know.
Yes, but there are so many other, I mean, with respect to all religions and also, you know, of course to Islam particularly, Islam itself provides so many ways of you know, giving back and, you know, of course, as far as qurbani is concerned, the way to do it. And like you said, there are, of course, these shops also that do all, to make it more convenient for those who can't. But, you know, I mean, necessarily, I don't know if Meera, you know, butchering an animal on Eid would necessarily make a man soft. I mean, that's how I look at it. I think, you know,
I
it's
mean,
about...
it's not just one act that is going to be.
but I'm
so
just
we
saying
really need to toughen our boys.
Yes, but also, I agree with you, and I think that, you know, accepting themselves and accepting the women and their frailty, you know, also is of course part of them becoming men, is part of, you know, how they deal with that. And again, I want to include Kaleem Saab in this also, because Kaleem Saab, you deal with youth and, you know, it's so important in terms of education also when you're growing up, and there is of course co-education and how masculine, and I think what Meera said is so important, and you know how feminine or masculine a man is versus women, and how the traditional roles also, you know, making sure that there are those traditional roles also, because they're also important. That's what I feel, and you may not agree with me. But then also, you know, making sure that the new values and the new, like you said, you know, people maybe, you know, kids liking animals more than before, and, you know, becoming more sensitive, and yet, you know, keeping their masculinity intact. Is that also?
Actually, I think, in my opinion, we have diverted from the main aspect, but just to mention something, this has been, again, as I was mentioning during the break, that there is anything that you attach a stigma to, it becomes an issue.
Right.
The problem is that in Pakistan, I mean, my education and everything, my childhood, most of the time I've spent in Pakistan. We have always heard this: man cannot cry, a boy cannot be weak. Who says? You don't cry, you end up in depression, you end up with blood pressure, you end up with different types of problems. So this, you know, this thing attached to a boy at an early childhood is something very devastating. However, at the same time, the main aspect of Eid is not to sacrifice an animal. Again, as I said, because we started off, it is a sunnah of Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam. So the concept started with obedience, as you mentioned, then moving on, sacrificing the most precious thing that he had, and number 3, getting rewarded for that. So this is the whole idea. Now, when we bring an animal inside this Eid, it takes the entire projection. And the spirit of sharing, the spirit of forgiving, the spirit of sacrifice goes away. Now, whether somebody, a boy or a girl or anybody is able to sacrifice an animal or is not able to sacrifice an animal, I think it's just like driving a car. Somebody wants to drive, somebody doesn't want to
That's
drive.
perfectly all right.
And I would like to add up that we need to redefine masculinity and feminism. So it also needs to be redefined.
The whole point, Aisha, is here, or Kaleem Saab, is this, that my point is that we need to involve our youth
Absolutely.
in the culture that we have. Okay,
Yeah.
we have, see,
Agreed.
that separates us from the Western culture. Nothing is bad. There is nothing bad about Western culture. That's their culture. Wonderful. But these are the things that separates us, in terms of our own culture and traditions. So we need to make sure that someone is practicing, because after our generation,
We have
That's
to keep
it.
the values alive if
Yeah.
we want them to be seen in our children.
exactly.
But then we
They
also,
also
need
get
to have a
inspired by you
difference
if you
between
go there
the
and
culture
you are-
and
yeah,
religion.
yeah, absolutely.
They
Somehow
do
we
that.
don't know, we are unable to differentiate that this is culture and this is religion. So this differences should be also taught to the children.
She's right. The
There are
lines have been
certain things-
diluted so much that things that are actually culture have unfortunately been associated with our religion, and that's not
It keeps
necessarily there.
overlapping.
It keeps
you see.
overlapping.
So
You're right.
we do tend to get confused. There are so many things that we do normally that might be, they are part of the culture but not part of the religion. So yes, the children or the youth or as a parent, we should be very clear about this aspect when we are explaining. If you are explaining about the sacrifice on Bakra Eid, this is a religious obligation.
Like, for example,
not
I
a
want to
culture.
say, as far as empowering women is concerned, when we talk about religion, Islam empowers women to a degree that perhaps none of the other religions do.
have done it.
And there are no stereotypes. I mean, the way that we've seen the example of Hazrat Khatija also. We've seen the way that it brought the status of women to, it shot to the sky when the Prophet, when Islam came. And that is not necessarily true about our religion, about our culture, sorry.
True.
So, and we see that culture seeping into religion to erode what is essential to Islam.
True.
And that kind of respect, that kind of status, that kind of empowerment.
See, the empowerment, when we're talking about Eid al-Adha, is connected with Hajj.
Yeah.
And when we talk about Hajj, what is Safa and Marwa? Is actually when Hazrat Hajra was looking for water. So what is it that we as entire Muslim nation doing at Safa and Marwa? Actually, we are marking that journey of a woman, and we are, reliving it. We relive it every year. We are marking that thing that a woman has done at that time. So look at the way she has been ranked. Hazrat Ajra, one of the sunnah that she has done, we follow it till day. And that is, that is why this Eid is more connected, since it's connected with Hajj. So yes, I do believe to a certain extent, maybe that Eid, Chandrat celebration do not come there. And but having said earlier Aisha was saying that about the custom of sacrificing. I believe that she's right, because we usually look at the 2% of the population of Pakistan. 90% or 98% are still in the rural areas, are still practicing what we do. It's unfortunate that you do not have the means, they do not have the visibility. Actually, we don't see them. So that's unfortunate, because they do not rule the social media or anything like that.
Now also I want to draw our viewers' attention to something Kaleem Saab just mentioned about keeping others in mind. Right now, worldwide, we're having a very serious situation going on in the Palestine. We as a nation, we are also extending our solidarity with the people, with the Palestinians who have lost their loved ones. Hundreds and thousands of precious lives have been lost. They have been martyred by the Israeli aggression. We as a nation, we are with our Palestinian brethren in this tough time, and we also urge the world community to make sure that this halt needs to be put in. Immediate ceasefire needs to be put in place, and we ask the United Nations to please somehow make sure that all the people who are affected in Palestine, they will get the humanitarian aid as they are rapidly going towards famine.
And
So
as we celebrate, as we all celebrate, we must keep in mind
absolutely,
those brothers and sisters, those children, those mothers in Gaza, in Palestine, who are being, there's brutality, and there are no words for what is happening. There are no, there really isn't enough being said. And of course, the world has to unite for the cause of humanity.
that is true. Now, folks, this is still, the show is still going on, and we'll be right back after this short break.